New Orleans Saints, you're on the clock. We're back with another 2025 team mock draft. This time we're talking New Orleans Saints. We'll cover all their current situation as it stands, their team makeup, the cap situation, and then we'll cap it off with 7 rounds of mock draft goodness. Make sure you comment, like, and let's get to it. So currently as it stands, this team is in cap purgatory. They are the worst in the league right now. They've got a lot of dead cap. They're first in the league in dead cap. They've got a lot of free agents that are coming up. I just wanted to point out that they're going to have to do a lot of cost cutting. They're going to have to figure out what they're doing if they want to retain any of their free agents, the Chase Youngs of the world. There's currently 21 players that are free agents on this roster. So we've got a lot of work to cut out for us, and they're going to have to lean into the draft for some of these things because they're going to have to rebuild the core of this team. The defense, the stars that they have are getting older. The offense, the stars they have are getting older. There's just a lot of things that are going to need to happen here. So this is fun. If you love team building, if you love roster construction, a New Orleans rebuild is kind of the epitome of fun right now. Now, it's going to be a challenge, though. When you look at their dead cap, multiple guys that aren't on this roster anymore, 3 of the top guys are all off the roster. One of them's not even in the league right now, Michael Thomas. So we've got a lot of dead cap spread out over a lot of players that are no longer with the team. And that could be a challenge for us. Now, I'm going into this mock draft, and as we look towards the depth chart, I'm going into this mock draft not looking at quarterback. This is not a strong quarterback class. I presume the top ones are going to be gone by the time they pick at 9. Right now, they have Derek Carr, who, if you look at his PFF grades, was fine. He's a solid starter, dealt with injuries. He can distribute and game manage and do the things you need to do for a year or so while they let that cap deal with it, get dealt with. And then they have Spencer Rattler, so they can let these two battle it out for the starting position and then just kind of roll with it this year. You're probably picking top 5 next year as you're rebuilding this roster. You're trying to churn a lot of these old, expensive contracts while rebuilding, but when you look at their offense could be what helps them. If they can load up with a couple of key playmakers and work on this offensive line in whether it's free agency or the draft, this could be an offense that really could compete with the rest of the NFC South and keep them in games while their defense is currently rebuilding. So when you look at this offense, I see, we know that Olave and Shaheed are their 2 starters. They're going to have to figure out between, Means, Tipton, Cedric Wilson, what are they going to do here? I think they probably need to bring in another receiver at some point in the draft, later on in the draft. They need tight end help. Juwan Johnson's going to be a free agent. I know Dallin Holker is a guy that I liked last year coming out in the draft, but they're going to need at least another tight end. They probably need a true number 1 tight end to run this offense. And then you need potentially a center, a tackle that could slide inside or an interior guy, or a tackle that could slide one of these tackles inside. I'm guessing 2 offensive linemen at least. Then when you look at the defense, this is where age is going to start kicking in. Cam Jordan, old. Rest of the defensive line and their depth guys were not super productive. Brian Breesy is intriguing. He's definitely a really solid pass rusher at this point. He's got to work on his run stopping. Chase Young is a free agent, so you've got trouble there because you have to figure out what you're doing with your defensive line. Linebackers wise, Pete Werner is still developing, but he's developing slowly. Demario Davis, very old. Willie Gay, who they brought in as a free agent, is now a free agent again, was not super productive. Then when you get to the secondary, they've got solid players, but they don't really have a true number 1 corner right now, unless you think McKinstry's going to take that next step, which he could, but he's going to need time. So Will Harris, free agent. Tyrann Mathieu getting older, but he's still a really smart, intelligent ball hawking safety there in the secondary. So you've got some pieces to work with, but a lot of free agents and a lot of guys getting older. Moving on, like I do in all the videos, I just want to give you kind of an overview of PFF's top rated players on both sides of the ball. Some folks love to lean into the analytics and the numbers game of the situation. With a team like New Orleans, they need a talent infusion, right? Like they can use help in all the positions, and in almost every single area they can use an upgrade. They have their wide receiver 1 in Olave, but outside of that, their offense could use some reinforcements. They have some young players on the defensive side that they've drafted recently that I think could develop, but they still need plenty of help there. I mean, it just is what it is. Free agents, when you look at the guys that they have that are about to walk, potentially, startable guys that have given them significant reps, and Chase Young, Juwan Johnson, I think Peyton Turner could be a guy that they would want to try to bring back. I mean, so there's plenty of guys that are going to leave, and most of them I would probably let walk and not be too upset about it, outside of the top couple guys. Chase Young and Peyton Turner, I think I would try to get back if it's possible, just because they're young and you could work with them with whomever your next coaching staff is whenever they bring in one. So that brings us down to our actual team needs. Right now, obviously, number one, head coach. I think they need to replace the GM too, but for some reason, Loomis continues to have a job there. I think they need a true number one tight end. I think they either need an offensive tackle or an interior guy, maybe even two. Depth at running back. They could use some defensive tackle help, some interior help, some edge help, some linebackers, probably a couple, corners, safeties. I mean, they basically, you name it, they probably could use some help there, whether it's competition or a true number one. And let's get to this mock draft. All right, so as we move over to the mock draft portion of this video, always comment below if you like something, if you have a thought. What are you seeing? What are you doing with your mock drafts? When we look at PFF's mock draft right now at this point, we are seeing kind of what we'd expect. You know, a lot of people are talking about Cam and Shador being up there in the top few picks. Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Ted McMillan, Mason Graham, Will Johnson. These are all James Pierce. These are all fine picks. I think these guys could all go in the top 10, and it would not surprise me. This is where the conversation really gets kind of tricky for us as New Orleans is. You want to take best available. We're not just going to look at trying to fill needs. With Ted McMillan gone and Travis Hunter, who could play either way, I think we don't look at a wide receiver here. I think in the top 10 to 15 picks, I tend to want to lean in the trenches, right? Offensive line, defensive line. That would lean me to a guy like Will Campbell. You could say Josh Simmons may even be in this conversation. Mike Green is jumping up draft boards. You know, he's had a good showing so far as we've gotten into draft season. I think he's a guy that's going to push for first round consideration. You know, there'll be the Kelvin Banks truthers. I want to protect my offense and keep building into that, so I'm going to lean into Will Campbell. But you could tell me Simmons, you could tell me Banks. It wouldn't surprise me. All right, back on the clock at pick 40. This is still a really high-end pick. You should get a really nice player here that should step in and be a starter from day one for you. Let's kind of see what's been happening since here. Okay, so both the top-end tight ends are gone off the board. But, you know, if you're a Harold Fannin guy, maybe this would be the time you consider a guy like Harold Fannin if you really want to go tight end. I think I want to look in a different direction at this point. We saw some defensive linemen go. All right, let's see what's on the board. Omar Norman Lott is a guy I really like early in the second round. He's an athletic. He's got great hands. He's got burst. There's a lot of things to like about him. Jihad Campbell, you know, really knocked down the middle of your defense there with your really high end linebacker. Siobhan Revel's a guy that was in first round consideration, but you know, dealt with injuries, so he's probably going to slide a little bit. So him here wouldn't be surprising. I just want to go through a couple other players who are sitting here so you guys see what's available. Ursary slid down the board, but he's a guy that's going to be a day 2 pick. Jalen Walker is a really athletic edge combo type linebacker that I think could be a really fun piece in this defense and could be a stalwart, quite honestly. Derek Harmon, if you want the interior guy. Gosh, I think I got to go Jihad Campbell here. It's almost like a slam dunk if you don't take arguably the best linebacker in the draft and a guy that you can really be the brains of your defense for years to come. And back on the board with pick 71. Let's see what we got here. So we've seen Royals, Trapillo, Alexander, Judkins, Ivy. All right, so we even saw quarterback. The Giants got their quarterback. I guess James Winston's going to have some competition. If you know, you know. All right, so what we're doing here, we got some offensive linemen. You know, Savania is a guy who was in consideration for a late first round pick. I'm surprised he would slide down this far, depending on how you feel about him. Travion Henderson, if you're looking for a running back, I really like him. Edge rusher, Gunnar Helm. Arroyo's continue to roll up draft boards. He's a very athletic tight end. Marcus Embo is an offensive lineman I really like. Charles Grant from William Mary's been climbing. Eamon Worry is okay. I'm going Eamon Worry here. He's the best safety in this draft class, and to be sitting here at 71 is crazy to me. He can do it all. He gives you that ball hawking mentality, and the thing I like about him is it wouldn't surprise me to see him line up in various ways in the secondary of your defense. So grab a guy like that, and that just is a tone setter on that secondary. All right, back on the board at 93. We're obviously seeing other quarterbacks go. And like I said, I'm not even considering quarterback in this draft just because we got 2 guys that we can use on the roster and hold us over till next draft, where I think we could see some really nice pieces, and you're projected to have a top 5 pick. So we're just going to continue to try to build the core of this team. Trenches, give me some secondary help. I really like Deion Walker here. Tate Ratledge would be another fun one. Andrew Makuba is another nice piece here. RJ Harvey, if you want a running back. A little national champion if you really want to grab a quarterback. I'm not grabbing one. If there was a quarterback in this draft class, let me know in the comments. Who would you take? Which quarterback would you love for your New Orleans Saints to get? I'm just going to look a little bit, see what we got here. Now it's pretty easy for me. I'm going with Deion Walker. Give you a nice, flexible defensive lineman that could play inside, play outside. He's athletic. He's just got great size, speed, the whole combo. I like him, and to get him, kind of in that top 100 range, I think is a steal for them. All right, back up on the clock here at 110. We've got tons of picks still to go, so we just keep adding pieces to hopefully help us in the long term. We're going Damian Martinez. I think he's he can be a bit of a do-it-all running back that you could bring along. You now have a number 2 that's going to stay healthy, and then that allows you to figure out what you're doing with whatever's behind you. And with us being back on the clock just a few picks later, you still have the ability to kind of go in a different direction. It wouldn't surprise me if they grabbed a, running back, wide receiver, tight end here, at that spot, and then kind of come back around and grab another skill position player. Quinn Ewers sitting there on one. Okay, so this is a tough one for me because I actually really do like Quinn Ewers. I know that there seems to be up and down with him, but he's played at a high level and shows you that he can make all the throws. He can be a distributor. I'm not going to take him because I already told you guys I wasn't drafting a quarterback, but this would be a really intriguing spot for me. If he was sitting here, in the 4th round around here, I would certainly consider him. I think he could certainly beat out either of the guys you have right now. But again, I'm kind of leaning in, build our core, focus on next year. So let's see what we got here. All right, so we are going to grab ourselves a tight end. I like Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame quite a bit. Get yourself a guy that is a solid blocker, comes from a school that's very good at giving you tight ends that are quality players. I think he can step in from day one and take over that room. And then you have him and Holker as your, Evans can be your blocker, Holker can be your pass catcher, but also Evans has some pass catching ability. He's maybe not as explosive an athlete as Holker, but the 2 of those together make a nice combo. Back on the clock at pick 184. Prather is an explosive athletic wide receiver. I like him. Has decent route running ability as well. Higgins, an athletic linebacker that I think would be a really fun piece. We already grabbed you a linebacker, but I could easily make the case that you need a couple. So he's certainly on the board. Ricky White, another really solid route runner. Felton, solid route runner. Luke Lachey coming from tight end U. I mean, there's some really nice pieces sitting on the board here. I think we're going to look at corner because I saw a corner that I like quite a bit sitting here in Jason Marshall Jr. And because I don't love what's sitting on the board here, he's at a spot where I could see him. I kind of project him somewhere in the 5th to 6th round. So I'm going Jason Marshall Jr. from Florida. He's got great size. I think he's a physical corner that could step in and really push for playing time early. Back on the board at pick 205, we got 3 picks left. Let's see what we can add. If we didn't take running back here, or if we didn't take running back already, Jordan James is a really fun running back from Oregon that I like a lot. We got a wide receiver sitting here, though. That works for me, so I can go Ricky White from UNLV. I like his route running ability. I like his size. I like his athletic profile. Back on the clock at 252. We got 2 picks left right here, 252 and 255. So we're just going to keep trying to build up our team and see what we can get here. We already grabbed tight end. I like Brant Queeth. You've seen me. If you've watched this channel at all, you've seen me draft him a few times. I like Howard Cross. So that's a nice defensive lineman from Notre Dame to grab late. We're going to do it. I'm not a Notre Dame lackey, but I do like the player. I think he's got good size. I think he's athletic. I think he's got some power, and I think there's still room for him to grow where you can develop him in your scheme. Back on the clock at 255, last pick for these New Orleans Saints. Let's see what we've got here. We're going to double up. We're going Shamar James, linebacker from Florida. I like him as well. I am not biased. My team is Michigan, which is funny. You do not see any of the Michigan players in this draft. I like Shamar James. I think he's an athletic guy. I think he can bring a lot to the table. Even though PFF gave me a solid B, what do you guys give me? We give you a little bit of everything here. We obviously focused on defense, but we sprinkled in some skill position players. Let me know in the comments below. I really do love hearing from you guys and having conversations with you. We'll talk to you later.